Why is the PS3 becoming so damn collectible? This little baby right here, and there's several different models of the PS3, as you know, is really going crazy ever since the news that Sony was going to shut down their digital online store a few weeks ago. Now, they did reverse that decision for the time being. So for the time being, you can still download digital games. However, there are a lot of reasons why the PS3 is set to be the next big major console to collect for. We've seen other consoles blow up over time. Things like the GameCube have just gone crazy over the last couple of years. And, historically, over the last 2, 3, 4 years, games on the PS3 and even the Xbox 360 have just been dirt cheap. You're buying all kinds of pretty good games for $3, $5, next to nothing at thrift stores. And so I want to take a look at why the PS3 is going to become the system to collect for over the next year or two, over and above the Xbox 360, and there's a bunch of reasons for that, so let's get into it. So the first and biggest reason why the PlayStation 3 is going to be a system to watch out for in the future in terms of collectability, in terms of prices rising, and that has got to be the huge library of exclusive games to the system. You take a look at stuff here like Tales of Xillia. The Tales series is fantastic. It's currently locked to that console. Persona 5, you can get it on the PS4, etc. But, the vanilla, so far Persona games have only been on Sony consoles. Something relatively small like 3D Dot Game Heroes. This game is getting crazy in price already because it was a small print run and you can only get it on the PS3. Of course, major staples like God of War, Ratchet and Clank series, the Uncharted series. You can only play these games on the PS3. Currently, Sony is not selling a lot of these games as any kind of backwards compatible or any kind of virtual console, so to speak, on the PS5, so going forward, these games are going to be locked to the consoles. Thankfully, there are lots of copies of a lot of these games out there, like Uncharted and things like that you can get your hands on, so they'll probably stay pretty reasonable over time, but some of the lesser known games are already starting to creep up, and that's because the PS3 is kind of a unique system. The PS3 and the Xbox 360 were the first consoles to utilize HD graphics using an HDMI port. The PS3 is the oldest system that you can currently play, calling it retro, so to speak, that actually uses an HDMI port. One of the reasons why the PS3 is so much more valuable at this point than the Xbox 360 is because the Xbox 360, thanks to Xbox's wonderful work with backwards compatibility, has basically become an obsolete console. There are games that are exclusive to it, but not very many because most of them have been moved forward to newer platforms like the Xbox One. Not the entire library, but frankly, most of the games that you would actually want to play, you can play on an Xbox One or an Xbox Series X, so you really don't need to keep your 360 hooked up. It's just not necessary these days. You can often play better versions of the games with upscaling and that sort of thing on the newer consoles. The PS3 is different, however. Sony is not a fan of backwards compatibility. Jim Ryan has come out on multiple occasions and said he doesn't really understand why people even care about these crappy old games. I personally find that offensive because I would rather play a PS3 game than a PS4 game 90% of the time. I like the gameplay styles, I like the games themselves, I like the history there, and I don't know. So the other great thing about the PS3 right now, which we mentioned before, is there is some backwards compatibility built into the PS3 that is not in the PS4 or the PS5 currently, at the very least. the PS3 can natively play any PlayStation 1 disc. And that's fantastic. If you're a collector or if you have a bunch of old PS1 games, you may not have known that you can actually pop those PS1 games right in the PS3. So that makes this machine a little bit more valuable because it replaces having a PS1 on your shelf if you want. Now, some versions, not this version, this is the slim version, but some versions of the PS3 also play PS2 games. And if you are lucky enough to have one of those and it's in working condition, being able to play PS1, PS2, and PS3 games all on the same console makes that console very valuable, just like Xbox, with the Xbox One playing Xbox 360, and Xbox One games all on the same console. That makes the console stay relevant for longer. And that's what I really like. Sony dropped that with the PS4. There's virtually no backwards compatibility with the PS4, and there are hardly any PS3 games available even for digital download on the PS4. They basically abandoned everything previous to the PS4, and they're sticking with that at the moment, which I think is a terrible decision. So the PS3, especially if you have one of the backwards compatible versions from the early days, is a very valuable console, the physical hardware that you want to keep your hands on. And then we want to look at digital games. Right now, as of the recording of this video, we have relief. We have another, whether it's 6 months or a year, going forward, that we can continue to download digital games. And there are some absolute gems for great prices on there. If you've been curious about the PlayStation 1 library or the PlayStation 2 library, and you don't really have a lot of those games, you can pick up some very cheap. I actually just went out and bought Parasite Eve 1 and 2 for like $7 each. Now, Parasite Eve is selling for upwards of $100. I actually sold my physical discs because I'm in the middle of downsizing and spring cleaning and wanted to get rid of my PS1 library and focus on some Nintendo stuff. So I sold my expensive PS1 games, made hundreds of dollars, and traded in and got some new games that I actually wanted. But then I went over to the PS3 store and I purchased several very cheap games. Parasite Eve, Suikoden. They're all $5, $10, $15 as opposed to the hundreds that they are physically as collectibles. Now, if you want physical collectibles, that's fine. I do too, just not necessarily the PS1 and PS2 library. I'm kind of downsizing out of, but there were a few certain games that I really felt like I had to continue owning, so digital is just fine for me, and that's another reason right now why you might want to get a PS3 or dig your PS3 out of the closet and spend a little time and money on it if you have to. So the other really great thing about the PS3 that we did not really see too much of going forward, certainly not with the PS5, and that is the connectivity to the handhelds of the era, the PSP and the PS Vita. There are quite a few functionalities built into the PS3 that make it really cool for sharing information back and forth between your PSP or your PS Vita. With the PS Vita, there's actually remote play, which also works with the PS4, I believe, but you can actually put a game in your PS3 and cast it to your PS Vita around the house, so you can actually play games that weren't necessarily available on the Vita in handheld while you're somewhere else in the house or someone else is using the TV. Fantastic. PSP has some similar stuff where you can download games to the PS3, like PS1 games, for example, and you can move them over to your PSP so you can play the game on both the PS3 and the PSP, which is fantastic. Just gives you more choice. I absolutely love it when game designers and game companies give you the power and give you the choice. So the PS3 is all around just a fantastic console that I think you really need to pay attention to now. Just looking at my last video, I ran over 25 games that I really think you should pay attention to pick up physically. That video has done fantastic. People, are just watching it and watching it and watching it because the PS3 is hot right now. And what you need to learn from that is you need to probably get into it now. Because yes, prices are starting to spike, but I'm telling you, if you compare this to other systems that have gone crazy, like the Sega Saturn, like the Dreamcast, like the GameCube, and on and on and on, a lot of these games are just going to continue to go up and up and up in value, and at some point, Sony is going to shut down that digital store. Maybe not this year, but they're gonna do it. All digital stores eventually go away. We saw the Wii shut down, so, you know, it's time. A lot of people were upset about it, but it is time. So I would definitely take the time, dig your PS3 out of the closet. If you don't have one, go buy one now while you can still get one for 50 or 60 bucks, because those days are going to be behind us very shortly. Anyways, guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you would. It helps out a ton. We'll see you in the next video. Stay classy.